Chapter 27. Luckily, they didn't have far to walk. As they finally came out on the other side of the woods, Byron recognized the driver of a passing pickup truck and flagged him down for a ride. "Well, Byron, what brings you up today?" The old man greeted Byron with a grin. "Just checking some cabins, Ray." Byron introduced Lucy, then added, "Do you think you could help me out? I borrowed Mac's boat, and it came untied back there at the cove. I don't have time to look for it because I need to get Lucy back to town." Ray gave them a wink. "Don't you worry. I'll tow it back, and nobody'll ever know it was gone." "Thanks, I appreciate it." As they neared the cabin where Lucy had left the car, Byron casually asked if anyone had noticed any suspicious activity around the area.
"Haven't seen anything like that,"
Ray said anxiously.
"Why? Something wrong?"
Byron's answer was casual and calculated. "Just wondering. It looks like someone might have tried to break into the Miller's place."
"Well, I'll sure keep a lookout," Ray promised. "If I see any strangers, I'll be sure and report them right away."
Squeezed tightly together in the front seat, Lucy gave Byron a grateful smile. When Ray let them out at the cabin, they waited till he was out of sight, then locked up and headed back into town. "How about I pick you up around 7?" Byron asked her. "The church should be locked up again by then." "I think we should meet somewhere," Lucy suggested instead. "Angela's way too nosy, and Irene's been in a horrible mood. I'd rather not borrow more trouble." Byron agreed. "What about the festival then?" "Well, I'm pretty sure Angela will want to go back, but she's supposed to be grounded, so I'll have to see if we can sneak out again." "Can you lose her once you get there?" "No problem. The less she has to be with me, the more she likes it. Besides, I think she's been hanging out with some guy there she doesn't want her mom to know about." "Perfect. I'll meet you at the carousel." After letting Byron out at his house, Lucy went on to wash the car. She hadn't realized how exhausted she was, but now, with the turbulent morning behind her, she could feel all her emotions letting down at last. She drove through the car wash, relishing the blasts of water and churning brushes all around her, feeling in some strange way almost as cleansed as the Corvette. It gave her time to collect her thoughts. Angela would demand an explanation when she got back. That much she could count on. She told herself she had to act normally, think clearly, come up with some logical excuses for being so late. She remembered the few times Irene had suggested that Lucy go shopping for new clothes, mentioning stores where she could use Irene's accounts. Yes, good cover. Glancing down at her stained jeans and jacket, Lucy thought how funny that was. On a whim, she stopped at the same fast food restaurant she'd stopped at that morning and slipped into the women's restroom. Using bunches of paper towels, she did her best at a hasty cleanup, then ran a comb through her hair. Fine, that'll work. Driving home, her thoughts kept wandering, even though she tried to keep them in check. Thinking too much was dangerous to her now, she decided. The slightest little thing might send her over the edge. How could a day start off so innocently, then turn so deadly? How could your life change completely in a matter of seconds? And how could she and Catherine, a girl she'd never met and would never even know, become so tragically intertwined? So much for fate, Lucy thought wearily. How strange it was, the way events wove themselves together, pulling innocent people into the middle of darkness, into the middle of bad surprises. If only she hadn't gone for a walk the other night, none of this would have happened. If only Mom hadn't died, I wouldn't be here in the first place. If only... No use going there, she told herself sternly. There was nothing she could do about any of it till tonight, except drive yourself crazy with worrying. She heard the battle before she was even halfway in the back door. Irene and Angela in the kitchen, voices raised at fever pitch. Angela's furious tears and Irene's unyielding authority. You were seen there last night, Angela. Irene was livid. I told you you were grounded, and you deliberately disobeyed me. It wasn't my fault, Angela whined. Did you actually think it wouldn't get back to me? Irene countered. In this town where I know so many people, I can't trust you for a minute, can I? But I told you what would happen, and now you have to accept the consequences. No car, period. Not to school, not anywhere. And your credit cards, as of right now, are cancelled. You can't do that. I just did. I'm not giving them to you. Angela, it doesn't matter. I have all the numbers right here in my briefcase, and it's as good as done. Now go upstairs. Daddy would never have treated me this way. Well, he's not here. And if he had treated you a little more this way, you wouldn't be so selfish and self-indulgent. I'll run away. Oh, Angela, don't be ridiculous. You couldn't survive for one night without all the comforts of home. Just once I'd like to be able to walk out this door and leave this house without having to go through all these theatrics. I swear I will. I'll run away where you'll never find me. It was my fault, Lucy announced. Irene and Angela both turned in surprise. Lucy took a deep breath and came boldly into the room. It was my fault, she said again. She could see Irene's mask of a face, her look of perpetual disapproval. Lucy? Irene raised one suspicious eyebrow. I wanted to go to the festival last night, and I didn't know how to get there. Lucy squared her shoulders. And you know how horrible I am at directions. And Angela told me she was grounded, but I begged her. Irene wasn't to be swayed. That's no excuse. Angela should have known better. But it was my fault, Lucy insisted again. Angela didn't even stay. She dropped me off there, and then she came back to pick me up later. And I forgot where we were supposed to meet, so she had to come and look for me. Irene gave an impassive nod. I see. Lucy glanced at Angela. Angela's expression was stubborn and defiant. Irene looked at one girl and then at the other. Finally, she said, Lucy, I also expect you to abide by house rules. I know, Lucy nodded contritely. I'm sorry. Both of you go upstairs. What about my credit cards? Angela demanded. I told you, Irene said. Cancelled. With a cry of rage, Angela stomped up to her room. As Lucy stood by uncertainly, Irene gathered her overnight bag, briefcase, her purse, and her coat. I've left the hotel number by the phone. I should be home early tomorrow afternoon. Lucy nodded. As Irene passed through the door, she gave Lucy a frosty glare. That was very noble of you, Lucy. It's admirable of you to want to protect your cousin. But in the future, I won't tolerate lying, even if you are trying to be noble. Lucy made a hasty exit, bracing herself against the blast of Angela's music that shook her bedroom walls. After a while, she heard Irene leaving, and the music promptly shutting off. She lay down across the bed and buried her face in her arms. She wanted to sleep. She wanted to sleep and just forget. She drifted. She heard the kitchen door open and shut several times, Angela going up and down the stairs. But she was too tired to wonder about it. She wondered instead how she could rearrange the evening now, how she'd manage to get out of the house. Irene had not only issued orders, she'd confiscated Angela's car keys. It would be tricky now, getting back to the festival. She shouldn't have worried. Come on, Angela announced several hours later, bursting through the door. Lucy nearly jumped out of her skin. What do you think you're doing? She demanded. What do you think? Going to the festival? Angela, are you insane? After that major blow-up with Irene? Do I look like I care? If someone saw you there last night, they're bound to see you again tonight. Irene's probably hired spies. She'll be furious. Trust me, Angela said mysteriously. Irene will never know. Angela, what? Don't ask questions. Just get in the car. But the keys, With a Cheshire cat grin, she dangled an extra set between her fingers. "Do I look that stupid to you?" "Angela, do you want to go or not?" Lucy thought about how much trouble they'd be in, and then she thought about the necklace and all that was at stake. And then she nodded and grabbed her jacket. "Yes," she said, "I definitely want to go." Chapter 28. Despite Lucy's reluctance, and the fact that Irene had confiscated her license as well, Angela insisted on driving. Lucy spent the whole ride slumped down in the seat, as though by making herself invisible, no police would dare to stop their car. Unfortunately, Angela wasn't in such a law-abiding mode. She couldn't wait to do every single reckless thing she could think of now that Irene had left town. "I have a bad feeling about tonight," Lucy said, but Angela just laughed. "Trust me, I will not get grounded for this." "Angela, you've lost your mind. You truly have." "I will not get grounded or punished in any way, shape, or form, thank you very much." "If you say so." "Come on, Lucy, just have a little faith." Lucy breathed a sigh of relief when they arrived at the festival. As the two of them walked through the gates, she didn't even have to come up with an excuse. Angela flipped her a wave and headed straight into the crowd. "Meet you same time, same place," Lucy said. Angela beamed at her. "Hey, don't count on it." "Angela?" Lucy shouted, but the girl just ignored her. "Angela!" What is she up to? Lucy didn't have time to worry about it, though. Byron was waiting for her as promised, right by the carousel. "Ready?" he asked. "As I'll ever be." Taking her arm, he steered her toward the exit. Lucy couldn't help noticing some of the looks they got on their way. Girls eyeing them with a mixture of curiosity and blatant envy. When she was certain he wasn't looking, she stole a look up at Byron's face, the handsomely chiseled features set off by that guarded, mysterious stare. Now she found herself wondering if anyone else really understood that expression, the way she'd come to know it today. She doubted if he'd ever shown such vulnerability before. She doubted he'd ever be so willing again. Still, seeing the wistful looks cast in their direction, she couldn't help but get a warm feeling inside. She was only human, after all. Nothing like calling attention to yourself, Lucy. Her appearance with Byron Weatherly would be all over school by homeroom Monday morning. The world lay shrouded in black. There were no stars tonight, only a blood-red moon, full and round. As they drove through town to the old church, Lucy watched it, fascinated, as it seemed to follow them through the pale, tattered clouds. "Full moon," Byron said, noting the focus of her stare. "No wonder things have been so strange around here." Lucy suppressed a little shiver. "I've never seen the moon that color before. It's creepy." He glanced at her sideways, but said nothing. The church looked ominous as ever when they pulled up and parked. Byron cut the headlights, and they sat there a moment, listening to the muffled sounds of the night. The sky flowed like thick oil overhead. A light mist swirled through the graveyard. "Nice horror movie," Byron commented dryly. Lucy nodded. It was the only church she'd ever seen that made her feel so unsettled, and she didn't feel any less unsettled once they'd gone inside. They stood side by side, their eyes readjusting to an almost Stygian darkness. Byron took a flashlight from his jacket pocket and quietly flicked it on. They seemed to be alone. Their footfalls echoed hollowly as they walked up the aisle, and Lucy could hear the faint scurryings of mice darting beneath the pews. As they neared the altar, a fiendish howl suddenly rose up, disembodied from the gloom. It echoed back from the damp stone walls, wafted through the shadows, shivered down along her spine. Instinctively, she grabbed for Byron's arm, then let out a nervous laugh. "Cats," she mumbled. "Matt said they keep cats in here. for rodent control. Even Byron seemed momentarily unnerved by the spectral howl. As a large black cat slipped around the end of the altar, he shone his flashlight on it, causing it to freeze instantly. It arched its back and hissed, then crouched down again and slunk away. "Not very friendly," Byron murmured, putting one hand on her back, guiding her gently forward. "Well, he sure didn't seem to like you much." Byron ignored the remark. "Do you see it?" he asked her, squinting through the blackness. Lucy, too, strained her eyes, running her hands over the dusty altar cloth. "No, but he said he'd leave it right here." "Maybe he forgot." Lucy sighed. "Then we'll never find it. He could have put it anywhere. He could have taken it with him, for that matter." She turned to see Byron standing by the confessionals, and her heart gave a fearful twist. "Is this where it happened?" he asked softly. "Where you saw, well, whoever he was you saw?" Lucy nodded reluctantly, as if merely conjuring the memory might bring it back again in all its terror. "He must have been in here already," Byron mused, "before you showed up. From where I was sitting, I would have seen him go in. He could have come through some other way, though. Matt mentioned some cellars. In these old places, there could be lots of entrances, right? Even secret ones." "Possibly." Byron's voice echoed, empty and toneless. Even the shadows seemed to slither away from it, skulking along the walls and ceiling, worse than any cats. She watched uneasily as he opened one of the confessional doors, as he shone the light in and skimmed it over the dark, cramped space. "And when you came out from here, it was just the priest," he murmured. Lucy wished they could talk about something else. "But it couldn't have been him," she said, almost defensively. He lifted an eyebrow. "I didn't say it was." He opened the priest's compartment, following the same slow ritual with his flashlight. He opened the door on the opposite side. All of them empty. "Byron," Lucy said suddenly, "let's go." He turned to her in wary surprise. "What's wrong?" I don't know. I just—" Her voice trailed away. She cast a nervous look around them, down the center aisle, the intersecting pews, the dirty linen altar cloth. "Please," she whispered. Was it getting colder in here? Just like the time before. Just like the last time when she'd heard the whisper, followed the voice, seen that malevolent shadow behind the screen. "Byron!" And she could see him looking now, too, trying to follow the direction of her eyes, trying to see what was wrong. And somehow she knew what would come next. She was expecting it, was ready for it. And yes, she realized with a shock, longing for it as well, like the scent of a favorite flower or the warmth of a favorite memory that transported the spirit back to sweeter times. Without another word, she turned and ran for the doors. "Lucy, wait!" She could hear Byron shouting at her, but she didn't stop. She put her hands against the doors and pushed, but they wouldn't open. "Oh, God!" She struggled against them, pushing, and she could see the crazy arc of the flashlight sweeping the ceiling, over the faces of the saints, the broken shards of agonies and ecstasies and long-forgotten prayers. "Lucy, for God's sake!" With one last effort, her body fell against them, and the doors burst wide and welcomed the night in. Screaming, Lucy toppled right into a strong pair of arms, and a very shocked expression. Shielding himself from her flailing limbs, Matt tried to steady Lucy and keep his balance at the same time. The next thing she knew, Byron had a hold of her, both his arms around her, restraining her and pulling her back. "Lucy, what is wrong with you?" She stopped struggling. She stared at Matt, who was staring back at her. Tousled hair, easy grin. Only now the grimy jeans and sweatshirt had been replaced with black pants, black shirt, and a priest's collar. Lucy! He gave a relieved laugh. I didn't expect to see you in here. I thought I saw a light. Thought maybe someone was breaking in. She clamped her arms across her chest. Byron had released her now, but she could feel him, the warm, lean strength of him pressed against her back. So, Matt was trying to peer around them into the darkness. Is there something wrong? Is there— Byron said quickly. Byron Weatherly. The two stared into each other's eyes, held each other's gazes for an extended moment, exchanged handshakes, firm and slow. Oh, Byron, hello. Matt. The new priest, Byron said. Well, more of a gopher right now. Their hands unclasped and slid away. Well, Byron said politely, welcome to Pine Ridge. The necklace, Lucy blurted out. Do you still have it? For a second, Matt looked puzzled. Then his grin relaxed. Right, that green necklace I found this morning. What happened? Did you suddenly remember it was yours? At Lucy's wan smile, he moved his shoulders in an apologetic shrug. But I'm so sorry. Somebody else already came by for it. Lucy and Byron traded glances. Who? Well, I don't know, actually. Another gesture of apology. I left it by the altar like I said I would, but I had to leave for a while, and the cleaning lady was here. She said someone came by to claim it. But you don't know who it was, Lucy persisted. I sure don't. Sorry. What about the cleaning lady? Would she know who it was? Byron asked casually. Well, from what I understand, she knows just about everybody around here. Do you know Mrs. Dempsey? Sure. Come on then, Lucy. Byron nudged her from behind. We better go. Nodding, Lucy looked back over her shoulder, making one last survey of the church. No cold now, no fragrance. But her heart was still racing, and her blood still had that chill. Sorry we worried you, Byron mumbled, pushing past Matt onto the steps. I wasn't worried, Matt said. Lucy glanced up into his face as she passed him. His smile was still warm, still teasing. He gave her a conspiratorial wink, and she quickly glanced away. As they reached the sidewalk, Matt suddenly called them back. Hey, wait a minute. I do remember something she said. At Lucy's perplexed look, he added, The cleaning lady, when the guy came for that necklace. He was quiet a moment, thinking. Byron's fingers dug sharply into Lucy's shoulder blade. Right, Matt nodded. A guy. That's what she said. A good-looking guy. He said he'd gotten it as a present. A present? Lucy echoed. For what? Not what. Who? For a girl. Matt chuckled. He said it was a present for a girl he'd met at the fall festival. Lucy froze. A sick taste of fear rose slowly into her throat. Did he say what her name was? Matt cocked his head and thought again. Oh, now I remember. Something about New Orleans. Lucy spun and stared up at Byron. Oh my God, she choked. Angela! Chapter 29. Wait, slow down. You're not making any sense. Hurry, we've got to get back to the festival. Lucy, calm down. Will you please tell me what's going on? I don't know what's going on, okay? Just drive. All I know is that Angela's in some kind of trouble. How do you know that? And start from the beginning. Lucy leaned toward him in the front seat, her voice tense with anxiety. Remember when I told you she was hanging out at the fair with some guy Irene didn't know about? He must be the guy who picked up the necklace. That's impossible. The necklace doesn't have anything to do with Angela. Byron's hands tightened on the steering wheel. What possible connection could Catherine's stalker have with Angela? I don't know. But that's why we have to find her. You don't even know if it is Angela this guy picked up the necklace for. He said New Orleans, and Angela wants to go to New Orleans. So, lots of people want to go to New Orleans. I wouldn't mind going to New Orleans. Call it a hunch then. Just please hurry. They reached the festival again in record time. Leaving Byron to follow, Lucy went immediately for the Scarecrow game tent and shoved her way to the front of the line amid irate kids and their equally irate parents. At the entrance, she recognized the same girl who'd been there last night, the one with the serious face. "Where's Angela?" Lucy asked breathlessly. "Huh, wouldn't we like to know? She left just the two of us here tonight with twice as many brats." "But have you seen her?" "Yeah, a little earlier, but—" "Please, it's important." The girl shrugged. "She said she was going with some guy." "Going? Going where?" "I don't know. Getting a ride? Or going away? Or—" "Was it the same guy she was with last night?" This time the girl rolled her eyes. "How would I know that? They were pretty busy, if you know what I mean. It's not like I could really see his face." "Can't you remember anything about him? Anything at all?" "I think he might have been tall. Maybe dark hair. But, they were back in the shadows." As Byron caught up with her, Lucy spun to face him. "We have to go after her." "After her where? How can we go after her if we don't know where she went?" Lucy looked so desperate that the solemn-faced girl sighed sympathetically, then called out to her coworker. "Did Angela say where she was going tonight?" "You mean with that guy?" the other girl called back. "Yeah." Something about New Orleans, I think." "Did they say how? Driving? Flying?" "Maybe driving. I heard something about a bus." Again, Lucy whirled to face Byron. "We've got to stop her." As Byron attempted to calm her down, they heard the second girl speak up. "Oh, hey, wait a minute. Are you Lucy?" Lucy nodded. "Yes." "Well, somebody left this for you." "Was it Angela?" The girl planted herself in the tent doorway, grabbing some rowdy children, trying to establish some semblance of order. I'm not really sure, okay? Just somebody left it for you. See, it's got your name on it." The girl handed her a small manila envelope. Lucy's name was printed across the front, and with trembling fingers she slid open the flimsy seal across the back. "It's the necklace," she murmured, her eyes going wide. "I know it is. Oh, Byron, I can't do this. I can't—" Byron grabbed it away from her and ripped open the flap. Out fell Angela's car keys. Chapter 30. He hadn't meant for it to come to this. At least not with this one. And especially not this soon. He always enjoyed playing with them a while, luring them, teasing them, manipulating them with praises and with promises. And this one had been so easy, so predictable. But sometimes he simply grew tired of them. Sometimes, after a day or a week or a lifetime, he simply discovered they no longer fit into the well-ordered chaos of his world. She'd been shocked, of course, that instant of disbelief, that depth of betrayal in her eyes. "But don't you remember what you told me?" she'd pleaded, as he'd tasted the tears of her sorrow. "Don't you remember what you said?" "Of course," he'd soothed her. "Of course I do." "Don't you remember you promised?" And he'd pressed her against his heart and plunged the dagger through her throat and twisted it with cold, calm ease. And then he'd smiled. "Of course I remember, Angela, but I lied." Chapter 31. Lucy stared in disbelief. As she glanced over at Byron, she saw him hold the envelope upside down and give it a shake. If she hadn't been so stunned, it would have been comical. "I thought," she stammered, "I really thought—" "Me too. But are you sensing anything?" Trying to break the tension, Lucy bounced the keyless entry in the palm of her hand. "Yeah, I've got a sense these are keys." "Your psychic abilities are impressive," he deadpanned. He balled up the envelope and tossed it into a trash can, then gave her a curt nod. "Come on." "Where are we going?" Lucy asked, hurrying to match his long stride. "You heard her. Let's try the bus depot." They were there in 10 minutes. Not only was the place small, but the waiting room was practically empty. While Byron checked the schedules for southern destinations, Lucy questioned the clerks at the ticket counter. No one remembered Irene Foster's daughter buying a bus ticket today, but after thinking a moment, one of the clerks remembered a young couple bundled in coats and hats and sunglasses who'd taken a southbound express about an hour before. "I think it's worth a try," Byron decided. "They don't have that much of a head start, and they'll be making stops along the way. It should be easy to catch them." Lucy felt sick to her stomach and sick at heart. As she climbed up beside him into the van, she shot him a look of desperation. "What if you're right?" "How so?" "What if this whole thing with the necklace has nothing to do with Angela? I mean, what if she's really and truly found the love of her life, and they're going off to live happily ever after, and we're going after them and being stupid?" Byron put the key in the ignition. He stared thoughtfully at the dashboard. "Then," he said carefully, "at least we know. Then we turn around and come back home, and they have their lives, and we have ours." Lucy sighed. "I can't help it, though. I just still feel something. Just here." She clamped her arms around her midsection and fixed him with a worried frown. "I just feel like something about this isn't right. It's just this awful nagging feeling, and it won't go away." "You're probably feeling a lot of things right now," Byron reminded her. "You thought you had the necklace, and you psyched yourself up to face it." "So did you," she said quietly. He shrugged. "Emotional roller coaster." "You're right. I don't know whether to be scared now or relieved." "How about a little of both? It's okay, you know, to feel both." She tried to smile at him, but her emotions were at full pitch. As they sailed along the highway, she leaned against her door and stared out the window of the van. "Everything's flowing tonight," she thought vaguely. Flowing road, flowing van, flowing curves, flowing hills. She could still see that strange red moon watching her through the clouds, the color of rust, the color of decay, a stain of old dried blood on the wrinkled flesh of the sky. Shivering, Lucy hunched her shoulders and burrowed deeper into her jacket. It felt like it was getting colder, both outside and in. And the moon, that eerie red moon, actually seemed to be growing and glowing among the tops of the trees, like some forgotten Christmas ornament. Lucy frowned and burrowed deeper. Why did full moons like that make her feel so weird? Make her think of creepy things like pray. "What?" She sat straight up and looked at Byron, who looked back at her suspiciously. "What?" he echoed. "Did you just say something?" "Yeah, I said just pray my brakes hold out." "Oh my God, don't tell me that. Your brakes?" "Well, all these curves sure aren't helping my van." "Thank you, Byron. That definitely eases my mind, you're sharing that with me." She saw that slow half-smile working at one corner of his mouth. She realized that she really loved it when he smiled like that. She wished he'd do it more often. "Stop staring at me," he said, and grinning, she turned back to her window. She closed her eyes. The hum of the motor, the rocking motion of the van on the road. She could feel herself drifting off. That pleasant state between sleep and attention, when everything seemed soft and warm and safe. She forced her eyes open and searched for taillights up ahead of them, but the road was so twisted she couldn't see a thing. There wasn't even traffic out tonight, she suddenly realized. But she could see the slow, pale curls of fog beginning to creep in over the highway. blurring the yellow line, swallowing the road ahead of them. That feeling again, gnawing at the pit of her stomach. "Byron," she said uneasily, "be careful." He cast her a sidelong glance. Always. "No, I mean it. Please." "Are you okay?" "Yes, just, I don't know. Restless. Nervous. If you want, we can stop for some coffee the first place we see. It might be a good idea." She gave a distracted nod. She gazed out into the darkness, out at that bloody moon. She wished it would go behind a cloud for the rest of the night. She wished it would just go away. She sensed something beside them on the road. Something she couldn't actually see. Something just out of sight off the shoulder. Something moving swiftly through the tall weeds, keeping pace with the van. Strange. Lucy looked over at the speedometer. 60. Yet she was sure, she was certain, that something was out there running even faster than the van could go, running even faster than the wind could go. "Byron," she mumbled. "What?" She saw him turn toward her, saw his hand slide across the seat and reach for her. She looked into his eyes, deep and black as midnight, and in that moment she could see in their depths all the truths and emotions that she'd felt that morning with her hand upon his heart. A sob went through her. Byron opened his mouth and started to say her name, but he never got the chance. As the dark shape came out of the fog, Byron hit the brakes, the tires screeching, the van skidding, sliding, going into a spin. As they whirled around and around, Lucy could see it there, the huge black shape silhouetted against the fog, standing on all fours, statue-like in the middle of the road, watching them. She tried to reach for Byron, reached desperately for Byron, but her head slammed the window and the van careened off the hill, and all she could think in those last few seconds was, "He never got to say it. Byron never said my name." Chapter 32. So this is what it's like to die. Lying there on her back in the grass, all alone in the darkness, she could sense the wet, runny mask of her face. Tears? Blood? She couldn't be sure. Couldn't be sure she even had a face. Couldn't be sure about anything except that her body screamed in pain each time she tried to draw even the shallowest of breaths. "I can't move. Help! Somebody help me!" With a ragged cry, Lucy tried to lift her head, tried to peer through the thick, endless night surrounding her. As in a dream, she could see the faraway sky blazing bright, lit by a giant fire, and along with those sickening smells of pain and fear and despair that threatened to choke her, now there was the gasoline, burning rubber, white-hot metal, and something else, something dear to her heart. Byron! That's Byron's van! She'd been sitting in the front seat beside him, and she'd been staring at the moon. That blood-red moon hovering there behind the trees and glowing out through the dark, shredded fabric of the clouds. She'd been staring at the moon, and then she'd jolted with the first sharp swerve of the van. Confused and groggy, she'd heard Byron's shout, the piercing shriek of brakes and tires. She'd felt the road give way to air beneath them as they dove off the shoulder and off the crest of the hill, and out through the foggy night, plummeting down and down into nothingness. "Byron, can you hear me?" She knew somehow that she hadn't spoken aloud, knew somehow that her thoughts had burst free of her pain, only to fall silent among the shadows. It was so dark out here, so dark, so frighteningly still, except for those flames leaping and glowing against the distant horizon. Something ran in front of us. With a moan, Lucy struggled to shut out the pain, struggled to focus her hazy thoughts. Byron tried to swerve. He tried to miss hitting it, but something ran in front of us. She wished she could remember. She wished she could remember what it was that had caused the accident, but there was only the briefest glimmer of memory in that last fatal second. Only the briefest image of something caught in headlights as the car veered and left the road. What was that? It seemed so familiar somehow. But her thoughts were fading, and she knew she was slipping away. In desperation, she stared up at the trees overhead, great gnarled branches etched thickly against the black dome of the sky. And then she noticed that moon, so full and round, so red like blood, caught in a web of tangled limbs, oozing out through the clouds, wine stains on velvet. "Byron, I'm so scared. Please help me." And that's when she heard it. The soft rustling sound, like wind sighing through grass. Except that she couldn't feel any wind, not even the faintest of breezes, in this heavy night air. The sound was close by, coming even closer. Oh, God! Once more she tried to lift herself, to call out for help, but the rustlings were in her head now, in her thoughts and in her pain, like so many urgent whispers, whispers of great importance. As Lucy's head turned helplessly to one side, she saw shadows all around her, shadows slinking along the ground and through the trees, slivers of black and pale, pale gray, and sparks of amber light. Terror exploded within her. Even through the paralyzing numbness of pain and shock, she sensed that these were animals, and she sensed why they were here. Instinct told her that she was surrounded, though one stood closer than the others. She could hear the slow, calm rhythm of its breathing as it watched her from a place she couldn't see. "Oh, God, don't let me die like this." She thought of Byron. The vision burst inside her brain with such force that she choked and gagged and vomited blood in the grass. In that one instant of agonizing clarity, she saw his midnight eyes, heard his calm, deep voice telling her not to be afraid. Now she remembered how he'd turned to her in that last split second of his life, his eyes desperate with helplessness and disbelief as he'd reached for her hand. Did he touch me? The thought drifted through her mind, light as a feather. Did we touch one last time? But the whispers were louder now, and the fire was brighter than ever, and she was so weak, so tired. Please, please, just let me die fast." Night swayed around her. As tears ran silently down her cheeks, something huge and dark leaned in over her, blocking her view of the sky. She steeled herself for the end, felt hot breath caressing her throat, smelled the faint, familiar scent of something sweet. "Byron, I'm so sorry." "Byron has gone," the voice murmured. "Only I can save you now." "Who are you? What are you?" Down, down she sank into the endlessness of time. And that voice, fading far into nothingness. "Oh, Lucy, there's no name for what we are."